Did you know that the northernmost, westernmost, and southernmost points of the US are well known? But the easternmost point is a shocker. It's not Maine, it's Alaska. It sounds impossible, but the geography proves it. The Aleutian Islands extend further than most realize, stretching deep into the Pacific. They actually cross the 180th meridian, the international date line. This is the official dividing line. Because of this, a part of Alaska sits in the eastern hemisphere, so Alaska is technically in the east. This makes Alaska the only state that's in 3 different directional extremes at once. It's where east meets west in the most literal sense, a land that truly defies the map. If you had to guess which US state is closest to the African continent, you'd probably point straight to Florida. It seems like common sense. But common sense is wrong. The closest point in the United States to Africa is actually in Maine. Due to the Earth's curvature and the way the North American continent bulges out to the northeast, the math changes. Quoddy Head, Maine, is roughly 3,100 miles from Morocco. Miami, it's over 1,000 miles further away. That's right, the pine trees of the north are closer to the Sahara than the palm trees of the south. It's a geographical reality that defies intuition, hidden in plain sight on every world map. Just another reminder that the world is a lot more complex than it appears at first glance. $34 trillion. It's a number so large, it's almost impossible to comprehend. But as of 2024, this is the reality of the US national debt. This benchmark represents more than just a fiscal milestone. It marks a historic turning point for the American economy. The debt now represents roughly 147% of the nation's entire annual economic output. For the first time, interest payments on this debt are beginning to consume a massive portion of the federal budget, rivaling even our defense spending. This growing pressure is forcing a new conversation about the future of the American dollar and the stability of the global economy. It's a financial reality that touches every part of the government, from infrastructure to social programs. As the numbers continue to climb, the question isn't just about how we got here, but where this path leads next. Most people believe the United States was born on July 4, 1776, but one of its most powerful institutions was already a year old by then. The United States Army was officially established by the Continental Congress on June 14, 1775, a full year before the country itself existed. At the time, the colonies were just beginning to organize against British rule, turning ragtag militias into a unified fighting force. It was then that George Washington was appointed commander-in-chief, leading a force that predates the very nation they would build. This makes the Army one of the few government institutions that actually saw the birth of the United States from the outside. Today, that lineage continues, carrying a history that spans more than 2.5 centuries of service. A foundation of discipline and duty that was laid before the first word of the Declaration was even written. In the 1960s, at the height of the Cold War, the CIA embarked on one of the most bizarre and expensive surveillance projects in history. It was known as Operation Acoustic Kitty, the goal, to turn a common house cat into a mobile eavesdropping unit. They spent $20 million surgically implanting a microphone in the cat's ear canal and a transmitter at the base of its skull. The idea was that a cat could wander near foreign diplomats without raising suspicion, recording their most private conversations. But the first test ended in disaster. Moments after being released in a park, the cat was struck and killed by a passing taxi. The project was immediately scrapped. Millions of dollars and years of research were lost in a single tragic instant. It remains a strange reminder of the lengths the intelligence community would go to during the most paranoid era of the 20th century. For many, the steak on their dinner plate represents the heart of the American food tradition, but the journey that beef takes to get there is controlled by a very small group. Just 4 massive corporations control roughly 85% of the entire US beef market. They are the Big Four. This level of concentration gives these companies immense power over what you pay at the grocery store. But it's not just consumers who feel the pressure. The farmers and ranchers who raise the livestock often have very little choice in where they can sell their cattle. What was once a diverse network of independent processors has been consolidated into an industrial-scale monopoly. This dominance shapes the entire American landscape, from the economy of small towns to the food security of the nation. In the land of the free market, the story of American beef is a stark reminder of how quickly power can consolidate behind closed doors. The American Civil War officially ended in 1865, but for the US government, the final bill wasn't settled until 2020. That's right. The last pension related to the conflict was paid out just a few years ago, 155 years after the war ended. The recipient was Irene Triplett, the daughter of a Civil War veteran named Mose Triplett, who fought for both the Confederacy and the Union. Her father had her late in life, at age 83, creating a direct financial link to the 19th century that spanned 3 different centuries. Irene received a monthly pension of $73.13 until her death in May of 2020. Her passing marked the true fiscal end of a conflict that tore the nation apart, a living connection to a history most think is ancient. It is a startling reminder that history isn't always as far away as it seems on a map or in a textbook. We often think of America as a land of vast open spaces and rural farming culture. But the truth is, the American heartland is a lot emptier than you think. An incredible 83% of all Americans now live in urban areas or their surrounding suburbs. Despite the iconic status of rural life, only 17% of the population actually resides in the small towns and farms that define the country's image. This concentration has created a startling geographic divide. If you draw a line through San Antonio, Texas, the map changes. 80% of the entire U.S. population lives east of that single line, leaving the vast majority of the West surprisingly vacant. This shift toward the city is shaping everything from the economy to the culture, concentrating the pulse of the nation into high-density hubs. In the land of wide-open frontiers, the American story is increasingly being written in the shadows of skyscrapers. In the late 50s, the space race was peaking, but the U.S. Air Force had a secret plan that sounded like science fiction. It was Project A-119, the objective, to detonate a nuclear bomb right on the moon. The goal was a massive show of force to intimidate the Soviets, proving American reach could hit any target, even the lunar surface. Top scientists, including Carl Sagan, were brought in to calculate the visibility of the resulting dust cloud from Earth. They wanted the explosion visible to the naked eye, a terrifying display of power glowing in the night sky. Ultimately, the project was scrapped due to fears of radioactive contamination and potential public backlash. It remains a startling what if from an era when even the heavens weren't out of reach for global superpowers. Modern agriculture has reached a scale that would have been unimaginable a century ago, providing an abundance of food like never before. But this bounty comes with a hidden cost, a chemical footprint that is now being measured inside the human body. Research indicates that traces of up to 27 different pesticides can be found in the bodies of the average American. This is the result of roughly 1.1 billion pounds of pesticides used annually in U.S. agriculture to sustain high-yield farming. In the race for efficiency, industrial monocrop farming has become a chemistry experiment on a national scale. This industrial reality has left a measurable footprint on our biology, changing the very definition of what it means to live in the modern world. It's a stark reminder that in an interconnected world, what we put into the soil eventually finds its way into us. In 1859, the United States and Great Britain, 2 of the world's greatest powers, nearly went to war. The cause? A single pig. The dispute took place on San Juan Island, a territory claimed by both nations, where a few settlers lived in an uneasy peace. It started when an American farmer shot a pig belonging to the British Hudson's Bay Company that had wandered into his potato patch. What should have been a local dispute escalated rapidly. Both nations sent hundreds of troops and heavy warships to the island. For months, they remained in a tense standoff, with neither side willing to back down over the death of a farm animal. Eventually, cooler heads prevailed as both nations realized the absurdity of starting a global conflict over a pig. The boundary was eventually settled through arbitration, leaving the Pig War as one of the strangest footnotes in American diplomatic history. When we talk about the giants of North America, one name stands above the rest: Denali. At over 20,000 feet, it is the highest peak above sea level. But if you measure a mountain from its absolute base to its highest peak, the tallest mountain in the world isn't in Alaska, it's in Hawaii. This is Mauna Kea. While only 13,000 feet are visible above the waves, more than half of its true height is submerged. From its base on the ocean floor to its summit, Mauna Kea stands at an incredible 33,500 feet. If the oceans were drained, this Hawaiian giant would stand nearly 4,500 feet taller than Mount Everest. It's a perspective-shifting reality that reminds us how much of our world is hidden beneath the surface of the sea. In the story of our planet's greatest heights, the true champion is a mountain that most of us will only ever see the very top of. America is known as the land of plenty, where grocery store shelves are always overflowing with seemingly perfect produce. But behind this image of abundance lies a startling reality. The United States is essentially a massive food waste factory. An incredible 40% of all food produced in this country is never actually eaten. That's nearly half of the entire supply. Millions of pounds of ugly produce are left to rot in fields simply because they don't meet the strict aesthetic standards of supermarkets. At the retail and household levels, massive portions and strict expiration dates lead to tons of perfectly good food being discarded every single day. This occurs even as millions of Americans face food insecurity, highlighting a profound disconnect in our modern industrial food system. It's a shocking inefficiency that shapes our economy and our environment, a reality hidden at the bottom of every trash bin. The legal system of the United States is one of the most advanced in the world, but hidden within its books are laws that belong in a different century. These are known as blue laws, archaic regulations from the 17th and 18th centuries originally designed to enforce religious standards. For instance, in Alabama, it remains technically illegal to wear a fake mustache in church if it causes laughter. And in Connecticut, a pickle is not legally considered a pickle unless it can actually bounce. While rarely enforced today, these bizarre statutes remain active artifacts of early American history, hidden in plain sight. They serve as a startling reminder of how much the culture has shifted, while the fine print of the law has stood still. In a land of constant change, sometimes the strangest parts of our past are the ones we simply forgot to delete. Every American schoolchild is taught that George Washington was the first president of the United States. But history has a forgotten first chapter. Before the Constitution was inaugurated in 1789, the nation was governed by the Articles of Confederation. Under this system, there was a President of the United States and Congress assembled. John Hanson was the first of 8 men to hold this title. While they did not have the executive powers of the modern presidency, they technically held the title of U.S. President years before Washington. These men led the young nation through its first fragile years of independence, serving as the bridge to the government we know today. They remain a startling footnote in the American story, a reminder that even the most established facts of our history have hidden layers. In a land built on ideals and surprises, the deeper we look into our past, the more we realize how much of our story is still waiting to be told. We have journeyed across the edges of the map and through the forgotten chapters of history, uncovering a version of America that often stays hidden from view. From the 8 forgotten presidents who paved the way for Washington to the final settlement of a Civil War debt that spanned 3 different centuries. We've declassified bizarre secrets, from eavesdropping cats and plans to nuke the moon, to the strange artifacts of our legal past that still remain on the books today. And we've seen the sheer scale of the forces that shape our lives. The weight of $34 trillion in debt, the monopoly of our food supply, and the chemical footprint left within us. These 15 facts are more than just surprises. They are the layers that make this nation a land of constant complexity and endless discovery. In America, the more you look, the more you realize. The true story is always deeper than it appears on the surface.